Oh, hey everybody. I got a new optic to show you that you may be interested in. Today we'll be taking a look at the Arken Optics SH4 4-16 Gen 2 with the mill reticle. And this may be an exciting scope from a company that maybe you just haven't heard of yet. But let's find out together. Let's do this. So I definitely have my favorites when it comes to optics and reticles, but it's also important to look at other really well put together scopes. And I love seeing some of these totally new cutting edge reticles. Alright then, so what is the SH4 4-16 FFP yada yada yada? The SH4 Gen 2 stands for the newest generation of optics made by Arken, and they offer the 6x24 and the 4x16. And we have the 4x16, so that means it goes all the way down to 4x magnification and then goes all the way up to 16 times magnification. All of the Arken scopes are also in first focal plane. This means the reticle changes size as the magnification range changes. So all of your hash marks remain true regardless of your magnification setting. And having that first focal plane setting is really important as you get like over 8 and 10 times magnification, or if you have like a really wide magnification range of like 1 to 10 or like 2 to 14. There are also two options for each scope, which is mil or milliradian and MOA, which is minute of angle. These are different ways to do angular measurements, and it's really a personal choice on which you find easier to use. And mil is extremely simple. But for some silly reason, all the MOA scopes always sell out first. Moving on though, you may have the question of why would you want a mid-range scope like this instead of like a LPVO or any of those other fancy optics that are out nowadays? Well, with mid-range optics, they generally drop off those low-end magnification ranges that LPVOs generally struggle with. As LPVOs, particularly first focal plane LPVOs, have a lot of issues at 1x magnification unless you spend some serious money in the much higher tier that gives you a functional low and max end magnification range. So then like a mid-range optic with like an offset red dot just may be the best of both worlds. Hey, are we gonna try this offset red dot idea? Hell, even I wanna know if it works. So tell you what though, let's find out if this optic is any good, and we'll do what we always do, and first we'll start off with seeing what all it comes with, go over the features of the optic, and then take a look at the reticle and how to use it. Yep, it's got a cool one. Then we'll mount it all up in our Scalarworks mount and do a series of scope tests, and then we'll head out to the range and test out the optic's performance. And we'll wrap up with some pros, cons, and if I recommend it. And maybe even throw in a mid-range optic ranking at the end. Alright, let's get moving then and see what's all in the box. Alright, so here's the box for our Arken SH4 Gen 2. Anything special on the box here? It doesn't really look like it. On the side, you can actually see that VPR reticle if you're interested. We'll look at all that in the end though. Alright, let's get this out of here. Oh, there we go. And as you can see, everything comes packaged nicely with foam all over everything. Get this out of here. Just need to remove these. Just get these off. Alright, and then you can see it actually has these bikini covers, so you can take these off. And if you didn't notice on the back, the sunshade is actually hidden on the back there with this little foam covering. So we can just take this piece off, set our sunshade to the side, just pull this off. There we are. Alright, and then we have our actual optic. So it looks like, what is this? Oh, okay, it says Titan to 18 inch-pounds. Okay, I guess I gotta remember that. Alright, what else in here? We got some stickers. That's nice to see. And then, what's this? This looks fancy. Oh, you tricked me! It's a cleaning cloth and a Allen wrench. Probably need that to set the actual zero stop. We'll set that to the side. Another cleaning cloth, though. So excited. Alright, what else is in here? We have the instructions. Now, there's a lot of stuff in these instructions. Here's all the details and how to make measurements. I'm not going to go through all this. You can pause here. We're going to go over the reticle. You can pause here, like I said, if you want to know all this stuff. But it's all pretty basic. We'll go over the zero stop and everything else. Yeah, good. Okay, that's all that's in there. We don't have to read anything else. And another big Arken sticker. We can put that somewhere. Maybe we'll stick it on Joe's car or something. Perfect. Anything else in there? Nope. That's it. All right, so we see the actual optic has a nice black finish. It actually looks really good. We didn't get the stupid sticker off here. I'm never going to remember to do 18 inch-pounds, though. All right, let's start off by taking a look at the diopter then. And, oh, good grief. Okay, so the diopter is extremely tight. Let me switch hands. This is, yeah, you're going to have to fight that a little bit. Thankfully, you just set it and kind of forget it. Makes me concerned about the magnification ring, so let's take a look at that next. Here we have it set to 16. Good. Yeah, that's pretty tight. Just be aware that you got to fight that a little bit. And what does that throw? That's what, 90, 180, about 210? So it's about 210 degrees of throw. I mean, roughly. That's a long way to go when you got to fight it the whole way, too. So just be aware of that. I mean, my hand slips right over that knurling, too. Don't love that. All right, what about these turrets? You pull it out? No? Nobody. Oh. All right, well, looks like everything fancy is right here. Look at these clicks. This is absolutely ridiculous. What's this? What? Look at this. There's like zero slop in any of this. That's probably the nicest turrets I've ever had or seen. Look, there's zero play in anything. It just clicks right over. That's the only movement there is at all. Is just it clicking over to the side or clicking back. All right, what about this parallax? Okay, look, the parallax is perfect. This is super buttery smooth, super, super nice. It goes all the way from infinity. I wasn't paying attention. All the way down. What are these little squares for? I don't know what these are for. All the way down to 25. Okay, well, that's cool. And, oh, okay. Illumination, that's nice. Looks like 6 settings and off in between. I like seeing that. That's a bonus. Okay, can't complain about that. Yep, pretty nice. We'll test out that illumination. All right, let's see the orientation. Oh, you didn't even include a battery. Let me go get a battery real quick. All right, so you can see how to orient the battery. You put it in this way, and you can tighten it down. It's nice that you don't need a tool or anything. And then if you want to put your sunshade on, it's super easy. You just screw it in on the front. No magic here. There's our sunshade all put together. And then I wonder if we can actually see... Okay, so eye relief is pretty good, and we can actually see that reticle already. So I'm excited to go test this thing out and see what all it can do. So you may have seen a little bit of a sneak peek there, but let's take a look at that badass reticle. The Arken SH4 VPR reticle uses a simple dot in the center with minimal hash markings along the center region. Now, you may be wondering why you'd want this. So it's super useful when you miss a shot and then you need to see where to adjust, like how far you need to correct for, and then you don't have like a ton of different hash marks and trash all in your vision obscuring where that actual shot landed. I do like the chevron tip on other reticles due to having a technically infinite MOA, and I did have some trouble finding all the reticle subtension data, but once I got it, I realized the center dot is like 0.4 mils. And I hate to break it to you, but you're not going to shoot 1/10 of an MOA groups, so really this is perfect anyway. Nope, nope, don't, you're not. Trust me. And goodness, this subtension is horrible to read. Let me break this down easier. At the end of the left and the right side is where you'll find individual mil hashes, so you can do mil measurements. With some basic math, you can measure and range a known target size very quickly. For my MOA guys out there, yeah, just get out a calculator and good luck. On the top of the scope, we see a similar setup, but without the blacked out arm to help direct your shot. And I did find myself missing this. The 4X gets pretty small, and it would be nice to have almost like those crosshairs pointing towards your target. But we'll get to that. And then we move into the super cool stuff. The lower section has a full-on Christmas tree reticle that not only gives you your mil hashes for your distance adjustment, but also has a mil dot for every quarter mil, with the large dots at every 1 mil increment. And from a measurement or like precision shooting perspective, this is pretty awesome, as some of the other reticles only give you like 1 dot at every 1/2 mil increment. And if your math for your windage puts you at like 0.3 mils, you can often end out in nowhere land trying to make an accurate shot. Why would you need those badass turrets when you have such an amazing windage and holdover on the actual reticle? But if you wanted to use the turrets, then you'd have that awesome center dot. Either way, the option's available for you. But let's keep moving to the zombies. At 4X, the reticle shrinks down and all the Christmas tree and reticle data is too small to see, but you can see the side scope markers easily to aid in directing your shot to the center. And as I said earlier, having that top marker would definitely aid in rapidly engaging targets. And I'm honestly a little bit worried that the 4x magnification is going to be too much, and then the reticle is going to be too small to actually be able to rapidly engage targets quickly if they're at any sort of close range. But we'll head out to the range and we'll test that when we go there. Zooming this scope in though, we see where the Arken 4x16 shines with the ultra-precise turret adjustments or holdover. When engaging a target, you can adjust for windage and elevation on the lower Christmas tree quickly and engage your target extremely accurately. Or you can instead make the appropriate turret adjustments on your elevation and windage to use the precise dot in the center of the reticle. And as I've said many times, with the ability to rapidly adjust for distance and windage, I really prefer that Christmas tree in the lower portion of the reticle. But now that we've seen it and gone over all the reticle, let's mount this whole thing up. And instead of showing scope installation on every video, I'll make one video to show you exactly how to install everything. And when I eventually get it done, I'll link it up here for you to review. But I set everything up on the Scalarworks 1.57 height Leap scope mount and got it all set up on our BRN-180 Gen 2 556 for all of our testing for this video. And through this process, I learned something very interesting today. The Arken and the Scalarworks mount do not work together. The bottom of the scope runs into the mount, which prevents us from proper leveling. It won't matter for what we're doing in our testing, but be aware of that if you're looking for scope and mount configurations. Don't judge me, it's getting cold. All right, scope test time. All right, so we have our first scope test. What's the first? Okay, yeah, turret rotation and zero stop. For the turret rotation, we see some of the best turrets in the business. The clicks on the turrets are at an entirely different level of audible and tactile. One of the biggest things you'll notice also is that there is absolutely no slop in the turrets themselves. The turret has zero movement besides snapping over to the next position. It really feels like the crisp break of a good trigger. It's that precise. Both the windage and elevation turrets have the same super crisp turret rotation. The Arken 4x16 also has a zero stop, where you can remove the 3 screws to remove the cap and realign with 0, and then you move the cap up 2 clicks and tighten down the Arken zero stop screw. And that sounds easy enough, but, well, which way is up? The up marking is placed next to the 0 marking, with the arrow marking in the appropriate up direction. And I learned I can only see the direction of up when I have the 0 facing me. And I generally screw this up even when it's staring me in the face on the top of the turret. I have zero doubt this is going to completely bite me in the ass on the range. The set screw is less precise and more of a game of finesse, where if you add too much or too little pressure, the super crisp clicks get all jacked up. It's certainly not my favorite zero stop method, I'll tell you that. So let's move on to the next test though, and that's going to be our illumination. Looking at the illumination, I honestly kept trying out batteries because I was afraid it wasn't working. The thing I didn't realize is that the only area that illuminates is the 4 lines that spread out from the center dot. Going to the 4x magnification, I had difficulty seeing the illumination in almost every situation. Taking the optic to 16 times magnification, I could see the illumination when in a dark room, but even in dawn or dusk, the illuminated area was extremely dim. And having that portion of the reticle illuminated doesn't really help at all in a low light situation. Alright though, let's move to the next test, and that's going to be our eye relief test. I found the eye relief to not be as forgiving as a few of the other mid-range optics we've used in the past. The eye box was fairly small at 4x and didn't leave you much room for error if you didn't get proper position. And as you'd expect, moving to the 16 magnification shrinks the eye box significantly. And I thought the 16 times magnification eye box was extremely tight, even more so than some of the 24 and 30 times magnification scopes we've seen in the past. And this is really surprising, as the eye relief is something you usually gain when moving to the mid-range optics. Anyway though, let's move to our next test, and that's the parallax test. Now this is where the Arken 4x16 shines with its tactile and smooth parallax adjustment. And this adjustment goes all the way from infinity down to 25 yards. Again though, we'll see if we can shoot at 25 yards with a 4x magnification scope though. I did find the parallax to be nice, but one issue I found is how sensitive the Arken 4x16 is to parallax. If you don't have your parallax and distance aligned perfectly, you're going to see a lot of image shift of your target and reticle if your head placement isn't extremely consistent. So just be aware you have to be absolutely on point with that parallax. But that also becomes harder as the 500 to infinity is a fairly small parallax adjustment range. But let's keep it moving. For our last test, we're going to look at that glass clarity test. And it seems like the industry has really nailed glass clarity as a whole. Moving the optic out to 16 times, we see an incredibly clear and precise image. I'm able to easily make out details on objects out at distance with just a 16 times magnification scope. Moving out to our 600-yard range, we can see all the numbers clearly, and as we move to the targets, I'm able to make out both the center rings of the 600-yard target along with the bullet impacts. Moving to our 400 and 300-yard targets, we see just how crazy the glass quality is as we can see all the details on those tiny targets. Okay, enough talking and tests and all those things. Let's actually go shoot it. So for our first things out on the range we're going to do, let's do some of those up-downs and then we'll do some multi-target rapid engagements. Setting up for up-downs, I don't know if it was a combination of my video equipment or the optics eye relief, but it took me an extremely long time to be able to see the optic when trying to engage with a close-range target. And this really tells me that the 4x magnification that I was worried about is a little bit too much magnification to use up close and personal. And the tight eye box certainly isn't helping the problem either. And if I can't even do up-downs, I'm not gonna bother with live fire multi-target drills. But here is some footage of me doing some practice sessions in the yard after I got back from the range, if you want to see exactly how that turned out. Overall, I struggled pretty hard unless the target was over 20 yards. The magnification was just too much, and I would really need that offset red dot if I was going to engage in any sort of closer distances. Alright though, let's go zero it and then we'll take it out to the longer ranges, as I think that's really where this is going to shine. So I zero a lot of optics and I'm pretty good at a 3-shot zero. But that turret identification did end up biting me in the ass as I kept making the wrong adjustments in the wrong direction. But I did end up getting it locked in. After like 10 shots on a 50-yard zero, good grief. Also, we'll continue this inside, it's getting dark. I took it out to the 600 range and started out by taking some shots at the 300-yard gong. And I'm not sure if it was the wind or if I never really got the scope mounted correctly, but I would define my shooting as extremely inconsistent. With a 300-yard target I've engaged a ton of times on other optic videos that I usually shot far too easily. I was on and off again all day long. The 400-yard target kept eluding me, and the 500 was, well, I have no idea where that went. So yeah, great shooting day. And I want to say that inner dot square really hurt me more than it helped me. I found if I wanted to make micro adjustments, I just didn't have any sort of reference point. So if I wanted to go like 0.2 mils down and then 0.2 mils to the right, I didn't really have a good way to make that happen and have any sort of reference point to where I was aiming at. I really thought I liked this reticle, but we're just not meshing well. Overall, from the close range to the zero to the long range, I had quite a bit of a frustrating day. But let's do some pros, cons, and if I recommend it, along with the new mid-range optic ranking. So for the first pro, it's those turrets by far. You can tell the team at Arken spent the time to make some really amazing turrets that make the entire system super precise. The turrets themselves have an insanely crisp break that is unlike anything you've ever seen before. So So if you like that turret adjustment method, you're absolutely gonna love this optic, and then it has that super, super tiny little dot in the middle. So that leads me into our next pro, and that's gonna be the reticle. Even though I struggled with it, the reticle is amazingly feature rich and offers you everything you may need from either the turret adjustment or holdover style of shooting. The 0.1 mil markings at the edges of the reticle also allow for easy target or distance measurements. The bottom of the Arken 4x16 shines in its elaborate Christmas tree reticle design. As a holdover guy, I absolutely love this. The holdovers are extremely precise and don't just give you half mil increments of wind. This allows you to put your holdover exactly where it needs to be, without any of that wandering guesswork about where you're supposed to be. All right, then let's get into some of the cons, and it's got a few. The first one is that super long magnification throw. The magnification adjustment is, well, I can't put it any other way than bad. The magnification ring itself is extremely tight and has like a 210-degree throw from 4 to 16. And that's a really long way to fight yourself through if you're trying to rapidly go from close to long range. The magnification ring also has very short knurling, so it's hard to get a good purchase on the magnification ring, which further adds to the problem. I saw a similar issue in the diopter adjustment where it's just super tough and get to adjust at all. Instead of the buttery smooth diopter adjustment that we've seen from peers in the same bracket as this optic. So for my next con is definitely the scope compatibility with different scope mounts. I was bummed that the Scalarworks mount that we got from Brownells didn't work with this optic, as this mount is my usual go-to scope mount for optics testing. Consumers just need to be aware that they may find some scope mount compatibility issues if they don't go with the Arken branded scope mounts. Plus, I'll have to remember to only ever tighten it down to 18 inch-pounds, which I'm sure I'll forget and break something. Okay, moving on with the cons, the illumination. You can basically say this has no illumination, as the areas that illuminates wouldn't really offer you much help besides just boxing in your target. The illumination also is hardly visible even in dim conditions. But having that whole badass Christmas tree illuminated, man, that would be super cool. All right, then on to our last con, and it's the usability of that 4X. With the combination of the tight eye box, the reticle that kind of turns into goo in the middle, and the 4X magnification, I was almost completely unable to engage targets within 25 yards. Even doing basic up-downs made me reassess who I was as a person, and if I even knew how to use a firearm at all. And I would think that the big 34mm tube would make a lot of those things better, but I don't really know much about optics and how to put them together, so what do I know? So without pulling any punches, let's get to it. Do I recommend it? And no, this just didn't end up being an optic that I loved, and it really didn't work in any of the use cases that I'm personally looking for. And I really like the guys at Arken and what they're trying to do, but I had nothing but struggles with almost every aspect of using this optic. For a mid-range optic, I really want something that excels at those closer ranges, but then just dominates at the long distances. And this optic and I just never really saw eye to eye, which is unfortunate. But if you're one of those turret adjustment shooters, I think you're just gonna absolutely love this optic. Just keep it at 16x the whole time, because the magnification ring is a pain. And the 4X really isn't helpful at all anyway. So let's do something new, and let's actually do a mid-range optic ranking chart. By mid-range, we'll say anything more than 2x and anything less than, I don't know what, 18? Yeah, let's just call it that. Looking at the chart, I placed the primary arms 2.5 to 10 Griffin in first. The optic absolutely murders the entire idea of a mid-range optic, with its super smart turrets, crazy reticle design, and parallax adjustment that make an insane synergy of all of its parts. Next and second is the Crimson Trace Hardline Pro 4 to 16. This optic's bonkers eye relief and ultra-smooth turrets and magnification ring make it a great choice and put it high on our list as a choice for a mid-range optic. I then placed the Arken 4x16 in third. The amazing reticle and turrets make engaging targets with holdover or turret adjustments extremely precise, but I did struggle with the closer range targets and eye relief more than any of the other mid-range optics we've seen so far. But I am really loving this whole mid-range optic idea, especially having so much time with LPVOs and seeing where they kind of fall and where they falter a little bit. So I hope this review of the Arken 4x16 SH4 Gen 2 first focal plane scope was useful in your purchasing decisions. I want to say thanks to all of our Patreon supporters. You're amazing, and I love you for supporting our channel. And I want to say thanks to everybody that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below what you think the best mid-range optic is. All right, everyone, Walsh out. No, you can't be down here. No.